Hello everyone, it's 2024 and I've released 4 music albums this year. It has been one of my most productive years so far. And I'd like to share a retrospective of my work and my journey with you. Just to give you an introduction to myself, I'm Luís Vilbro and I make music. I'm an independent musician, if you will. My music is often atmospheric, theatrical, progressive, and it blends genres. It is hard to categorize. What I expect from listeners is their curiosity and desire to listen an entire album from beginning to end in order to experience the full journey. So let's dive in what my creative year has been so far. At the end of 2023, I released a song called Burning Desire. It's an electropop song with very superficial lyrics, but it was a fun song to make, and it sounds fun. It's dance music, it's a fun song. Later on, I released 2 more singles. Eu e o Teu Silêncio, which got radio play here in Portugal, I'm very proud of that, and A Place of You. All of these songs have distinct characteristics and are the catchiest of the album that I was going to release. So I decided to release them ahead of the album in order to build up some hype. These songs belong to the album Floro Malfermita, which means opening flower in Esperanto. The album is a mix of electronic music and progressive rock. The album Floro Malfermita did not have any reception. It got 44 views on YouTube. It's the norm in my case. I feel the album is complex and it has some very interesting melodic and harmonic moments. It was able to blend 2 different genres and make a progressive rock album out of it. I feel it concludes a trilogy with my 2 previous albums, Argon and Negon, which had similar ambitions in mind, the ambition to blend electronic with progressive rock. I recommend you all to check the album Floro Malfermita out because I believe it has some really great moments in it. After that, I started working on an album called Daurigo, which means continuation in Esperanto. At first I intended to be in fact a continuation of the previous album, but as I worked on it I felt more inclined to mess up with the electronic genre. This time around I focused my attention on the more electronic aspects of the music and created elaborated rhythm patterns and used more complex samples than usual. I envisioned a sort of collage of sounds, which is reflected on the cover of the album. For Daurigo, I released 3 singles, Mancanto Nabo being the first. I made a video music of it. It got 64 views on YouTube. I'm very proud of the video. I think it came out interesting, at least interesting, and I suggest you go check it out. You can do so here. Then I released Mi Estis Mal Sprucen and The Unfading. Most of the song titles of the album are in Esperanto, because I feel that we should have a universal language besides English. Also, the titles in Esperanto sound more interesting than Portuguese or English. As most of my albums, it is a full-on experience, which means you should listen to the album in its entirety. One thing I have to say about Daurigo is that I found a particular sound signature that I'm very fond of. Part of that is that there is a VST plugin called Newton, which lets you make an instrument sound like another. Instead of doing that, I kinda biased the intention and used it more like a glitch effect, which gives some of the instruments a very lo-fi and distorted sound. This can be well exemplified in the first track, Mia Fenestro. That track also has some weird mumbling words near the end of the song, which I created using the same VST, which add some creepiness to the track, which I love. On the track Me Estes Mouth Open, I utilized a lot of samples I found around the internet. I used SliceX on FL Studio to cut and arrange the samples in a way that would sound interesting. The song has a very religious atmosphere to it, but blended with traditional Japanese drums, with glitchy electronic sounds and other elements. That gives the track a whole different vibe. The track Malbenita Arboro is one that actually directed the sound of the rest of the album. It was the track that I created first, and it inspired me to complete the rest of the album. For the vocals, I utilized samples from the movie Quaidan, which I highly recommend you watching. The track Antita Canto was also one of the first I created and informed the general direction of the album. The melody from this part came in a dream, so I decided to incorporate it. The blend of folk music from around the world, but especially Japan, with electronic beats, really resonated with me. I learned a lot during its production, and it paved way to the next album, Kurai Umi. The album got 26 views. But before Kurai Umi, I created the album AMP, simply called AMP. Since black metal is a big influence of mine and an inspiration in my work, I decided to contribute to the genre, creating a blend of electronic music with black metal guitars. In retrospective, the black metal aspect of the album got a little left out. I created an album full of songs that are melodic and introspective, and have black metal guitars creating the harmony. I see it as a successful experiment within the genre, even though it might not appeal to black metal fans. What I really wanted to convey with this album is that black metal guitars can be utilized in all sorts of manners besides the typical aggressive way black metal bands do it. Black metal guitars, with all the distortion and harmonic components, can create great pad-like sounds, which do not limit them to creating an aura of most black metal bands. If you like Burzum music, maybe you know what I'm talking about. The repetitive lines mixed with a lot of distortion create this cold and frozen landscape of sound that I try to capture on the album. In retrospective, I created songs that had electronic elements and guitars. The songs are great, and I really love how they develop. Listening to it now, I feel an immense sense of pride. One fun fact about the album is that all the percussive elements were created using Silent Hill sound effects. One of my favorite acts of the album it was a simple mistake. I think my vocal delivery really blended well with the atmosphere of the song. My inspiration for the vocals were David Bowie and Scott Walker. The guitars are minimal in the beginning and only represent the harmonic quality of the sound. Later on, I dialed up the black metal aspect of it, and the song gets more intense while still maintaining a melodic line. As with most of my music, you often have to listen to the full track to get the whole message I was trying to put across. This means that many people often listen to the first few seconds, don't find it interesting, and move on. But I'm a great believer in progressive music. Music that takes you places where you are not expecting to go, and that requires a bit of dedication. In my next album, Kurai Umi, I wanted to create a scary sounding album with elements of folk and experimental music, which I obtained from previous Darigo album. The first track that I created was Bells, and it set the tone for the other tracks. This time around I messed up a bit more with the experimental music, so in other tracks I used a lot of dissonant sounds, and created some hellish soundscapes. I remember I was in a rut when it came to naming the album and what art cover I should use. My friend João Roque, link in the description, listened to the album and suggested that it sounded like a dark sea. So I named the album Kurai Umi, Japanese for dark sea, and asked AI to design the cover of waves in a Japanese style. And for everybody that has a problem with using AI, I don't have the resources to pay some artist to develop my album covers. But I still need to make an album cover, I still need to make the album presentable. It is a requirement for albums to have artwork, and my options were to take a crappy photo that has nothing to do with the concept of the album, or use a stock image. So I decided to use AI, and it did a great job. The album is very tribalistic in nature, but it is also very heavy without implying heavy usage of distortion. It has its own atmosphere. Again, I've utilized a lot of samples from Silent Hill games when creating the drums and some of the effects. Listening to it now, I feel it's best absorbed if you listen to it in a dark room, with no other exterior stimuli. It is gripping and very dark. The songs are not as progressive as in some of my previous albums, but listening to the album in full gives you the feeling I was looking for when creating it. And this one album is the one I got more plays on. It got 306 views, which for me is a win. When it comes to views and plays, all of my albums go below 300 views, some even only getting 24 views. I will be lying if I said I didn't feel a bit bad about it, because I put a lot of work on the albums. And I would like to reach some kind of audience. Which musician makes music for not to be heard, right? But overall, what I take from this is that I created 4 albums in 1 year, and I like each one of them. And at the end of the day, I create music because I enjoy to do it. That was my retrospective of the year. Let me know what was your creative year like down in the comments below. And if you have any advice for people like me, also share it down in the comments. Let me know what you think about the video, my albums if you listen to them. And thank you for watching. Till next time.